Hello everyone, how's it going? I'm Matheus Beck, I'm a software QA engineer, and in this video I'm going to show you how to performance test an API using Apache JMeter. JMeter is an open source application that runs over Java and allows you to performance test your application in several ways. There are different types of performance testing, for example, reliability testing, failover testing, volume testing, but in this video I'm going to focus on load testing, stress testing, spike testing, and endurance testing. They are all testing types that allows you to check your API under different conditions. And the goal is to identify metrics, for example, response time, error rate, throughput, resource usage under load. And for this video, I'm going to use an API that I found here on this repository called public APIs from public APIs. There are a list of APIs here that you can use in your own application or for testing purposes. And I find one here called Catch Facts that we're going to use today. This API is this one. It has three endpoints: get fact, get facts, and get breeds. And we use JMeter on this API. So first things first, go to jmeter.apache.org. If you are using Windows, you can easily install this by going here on download releases and downloading the .zip file. Bear in mind that it requires Java 8 or higher. But if you're using iOS, you can easily install this using Homebrew. So first verify if you have Java installed on your machine, and then check if you have Homebrew installed. If you don't have it, just Google it. It's very easy and simple to install this. And then you can just type brew install JMeter. Wait a few seconds and JMeter will be installed. To check that, just type jmeter-v to see if it was successfully installed. And as you can see here, it has installed JMeter 5.6.3. So to run JMeter, simply type JMeter on your terminal and the application will open. Okay, so what we're going to do here. If you go to Google and if you type types of performance testing graphs, you will find an image that looks like this one. And this image represents the graph about the four testing types that we're going to perform today: load, endurance, stress, and peak. So load testing tests the API behavior under expected traffic levels, and the goal is to ensure the API can handle normal loads without performance degradation. Endurance, also known as soak testing, examines the API performance over an extended period under a sustained load, and the goal is to find memory leaks or performance degradation over time. Stress testing, the goal is to find the API breaking point by pushing beyond normal capacity, and we want to analyze how the system recovers after failures. And peak testing simulates sudden and extreme surges in traffic, and the goal is to ensure stability during unexpected traffic peaks. Okay, we're going to simulate this using our Apache JMeter. Okay, so here first we have a test plan. I'm going to name this the get facts test plan. Okay, first thing we're going to do is to right click here, go to add, and threads. We need to add a stepping thread group, and for this, the spike testing, we'll add an ultimate thread group. You could use this, you could test this using a simple thread group, but with stepping thread group or ultimate thread group, you have way more control. If you don't see this when you go to threads users, that's because this plugin was not installed yet for you. So you just have to go here on this button called Plugins Manager and call for and type GPGC. Then you find this plugin here, just install it, and then you'll be able to use these tools from GPGC. So I'm going to start by creating a stepping thread group, okay? And this thread group simulates the users that are going to test our API, they're going to use our API. So for here, I'm going to use lower volume of users, okay, and a lower period of time. So as you could see here, in the load test, it would run for approximately 1 hour. Endurance would run for 5 hours. We're going to test this using a small amount of time because this is just a demonstration video, okay? So our group will start 10 threads, okay? We will wait for 0 seconds, and then we'll start with 0 threads, and then we're going to add 2 threads, every 2 seconds using a ramp up of 1 second. The ramp up is the period that that's going to take for the thread to be activated. Okay, then we're going to hold the load for 60 seconds, and then we're going to stop 2 threads every 2 seconds. Now, as you can see, we have a graph that it kind of looks like this one. So we're kind of simulating the load testing here. Next thing that we want to do is to go here on the thread group, go to add sample HTTP request. So as I mentioned, we are going to test 3 endpoints. So I'm going to create 3 endpoints here. It's going to be the get fact, the first one. We'll use HTTPS, and the server name, we can get it from here. If we click on try it out, it will appear. It is getfact.ninja. Okay, so let's put it here, and the path, the first one is just fact. Cool. Let's duplicate this 2 more times. Okay, the second one will just be get facts, just adding an s here at the end of the string, and the last one is the get reads endpoint. So let me edit this, get reads. Cool. Okay, so what we have to do now is add our listeners. So I'm gonna click here on the thread group, add listener, and then I'm gonna create the view results tree. Then I'm going to add the summary report, also the aggregate report. I also want to see the active threads over time. And finally, let's add a timer here, a constant timer that is going to be our interval between the requests. Interval between requests. Let's keep it as 300 milliseconds. Okay, cool. So how do we see if this is working? Simply, first of all, you have to save this, save the test plan. So click on save, and I'm going to call this the get fact test plan. I'm going to save on my desktop, and then I can simply click on start here. So when I click here, if I go to the active threads over time, I can see my threads being activated each second. Okay. If I go to the view results tree, I can see my endpoints being called. If I click on an endpoint, I can see the HTTP response code, the request, the response data for each one of it. These 3 endpoints will be executed sequentially, but my threads will be executed in parallel. That's how JMeter works. Okay. As you can see, the test is still running, as you can see here. Let's wait a bit. If we go to our summary report, we can find that, for example, there's no error yet. The currently throughput is around 17 requests per second. We can see the average time of each request, the minimum time, the maximum time, the deviation, and the amount of samples that we have so far. So with just 10 threads, 10 user, holding the load for 6 seconds and having this ramp up and this ramp down, we can easily achieve a number over 1,300 requests with just 10 users. So as you can see here, we didn't get any error. In the aggregate report, we will find 3 important metrics, which are the percentiles. This means that, for example, at least 90% of our requests were executed below this time, at least 95% of our requests were executed below this time, and at least 99% of our requests were executed below this time. The goal, of course, is to have the lowest period of time. We want the API to be as fast as possible. Okay, so that's why 99% of the APIs were executed below 440 milliseconds, and 90% of our APIs were executed below 286 because it's more hard to be that fast. Okay, cool. That this proves that our load test is working fine. Let me rename this. I'll try to group. Let me put this load testing, and now let's create the other testing types. Okay, I'm going to simply duplicate this. Okay, and then I'm gonna call this the endurance testing. Okay. The difference here is that instead of just holding the load for 60 seconds, I'm gonna hold the load for 5 times that value, which means 300 seconds. Okay. Cool. Now, if we go here on our graph, we can see that the endurance test uh, looks like this graph. So what we would be doing here is an endurance test. Of course, in a real world scenario, we would be putting a value way higher than 300 seconds, for example, around 5 hours. But now let's just keep it as 300 seconds. Cool. Let me create the other two. I'm going to duplicate this again. And now let's create the stress testing. Okay. Now what we want is a graph that looks like this one. So we want to constantly increase the amount of threads until we break our API. So let me replace this by 80, and then I want to start 5 seconds in the beginning. Then I'm gonna add 5 seconds. I'm gonna add 10 threads every second using a 2-second ramp up. And now we don't have to load it for a longer period. We can simply type 10 here. Okay. Then let's stop 5 threads every 5 seconds. Okay, as you can see, now we have something that kind of resembles this graph here. We are constantly increasing the amount of users until we try to find a breaking point. So that's the purpose of the stress testing. Okay, cool. The last one is going to be our spike testing, and for this one it's going to be easier if we create an ultimate thread group. I'm gonna explain you why. Now let me rename this to spike testing, and here we have way more control about the thread schedules. Okay, I'm gonna click on add row, and then I'm gonna start my threading count in 5 with 0 initial delay, startup time of 5 seconds. Then I'm gonna hold the load for 10 seconds, and the shutdown will be 10 seconds. Okay, I'm gonna add a new row, and for this one I want to start 10 threads. Okay, and here on the initial delay, what the number that we're going to put is going to be the sum of the initial delay plus the startup time plus the hold load. Okay, so here 10 plus 5 plus 0 is 15, so let's put 15, and the startup time will be 10 seconds for this example. And now let's hold the load for a little bit longer and shut down the thread a bit faster. Okay, now let's add a new row, a new row. Yeah, I'm gonna put the start threading count now for 60, and that's the peak going to be made. Okay, let me put 60 here, and here we're gonna, as I said, sum this 20 plus 10, 30 plus 15, 45. So let me put 45 here, and then the startup time will be 5 seconds. Okay, and we're going to hold the load just for 3 seconds, and then shut down this in 5 seconds. And finally, one last row that we're going to start 20 threads. Let's sum this again. The sum is going to be 49. Sorry, let me replace this startup second for 1. Okay, cool. Yeah, now we have 49 here. The startup for this row will be 5 seconds, and we're going to hold the load for 20 seconds with the shutdown of 15. Okay, so as you can see, we were able to simulate a peak here in our thread group. Okay, now we can simply copy all of this, everything that we have created. I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it here, and then we have all of our 4 testing types configured. Okay, so a cool thing about JMeter is that you can generate reports using it, and I'm gonna show you how to do this right now. On a new terminal, okay, we're going to run a command, and instead of running it over here on GUI mode, we're going to run our test in non-GUI mode and generate a report regarding this test. I recommend you to not run all of them at the same time. So for example, if we want the load testing report, I would go here and click on disable, and then disable this one, I would save, and then I would run the load testing on non-GUI to generate the load testing report. And then I will do the same thing for endurance, stress, and spike. So first thing that we have to do is to go to our desktop, okay? And we need to create a folder here. I'm gonna create a folder called load_report. And then I recommend you to create stress_report, endurance, and spike report, so you can have in each folder a different report for each testing type. Okay, so to run this on non-GUI mode, you're going to run JMeter. You don't have to close the application that is running. Okay, JMeter -n-t, and then put the name of your test plan. In our case, cat fact test plan.jmx. We need to put the path here since we are on the desktop. The test plan is already in our desktop. So -l, and then put a name to save the test report. Okay, I'm gonna put load.gtl. That's where we're going to save our test execution, -e-o, and then the folder name that you created where the reports will be, in our case, load report. Hit enter, and then JMeter will execute our tests in this mode. Okay, so for us, don't waste our time here. I already run this for all these 4 testing. Okay, each time I've run it one, and here I have all the reports. So this is the load report, this is the endurance report, this is the stress report, and this is the spike report. So the cool thing is that you can see how many samples were executed, the error rate, the average time, minimum time, maximum time. You can see the percentiles, okay, the throughput for each request and the total throughput. You can see the errors, the how many errors happened, which kind of errors appeared. If you go to chart over time, you see a lot of more information. For example, response times over time, active threads over time. Um, if you go to throughput, you can see codes per second. Okay, most of them 200 here. The transactions per second. Okay, there's a lot of graphs that you can see. If we go here, for example, in our stress.gtl, if we go here, we'll see that there were way more failing because we're trying to find the breaking point. If we go to chart over time, and then, sorry, if we go to throughput and codes per second, you can see here that after some time, we only get way more errors than successes in our calls. So you can make a lot of analysis with these reports, and that was the goal of this lesson. Okay, I want you to quickly show you how you can performance test your API using these 4 different testing types, and hope you have enjoyed this. I hope I was able to teach you a few things, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And thank you for watching, and see you next time.